Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for August 21st, 2025. Today we're going to go over Hurricane Erin as it's pulling away and all of the activity in the tropics that we're going to have to watch now as Erin is pulling away and as the peak of the hurricane season is now beginning to kick into high gear. So let's get started with the National Hurricane Center homepage right now. Here's the latest on Hurricane Erin as of the 8 p.m. Eastern Time update. It's still a Category 2, although it's obviously beginning to weaken now, and it is now also beginning to transition into a post-tropical system. Maximum sustained winds at 100 miles an hour, minimum central pressure 952 millibars, and it is beginning to speed up now, moving at 20 miles per hour and moving on off to the northeast. And then we also have Invest 90L, which is in the northwestern MDR, and this might develop north of the islands and is looking more and more likely that this will probably become our next tropical system within the next week. And we also have 99L, which is also trying to sneak its way in and potentially become a something that flies under the radar. And I'm going to mention later on, I think 99L is not something that we can completely put to rest. And we'll have to see what happens here over the next several weeks. I'm just going to say that. And let's really quickly see what's going on in the Eastern Pacific. They have an area of interest as well at a 50% chance of development, and looks like whatever does develop here will probably remain out to sea and off the coast of Mexico, which is obviously a good thing, but also something else we are tracking in the Eastern Pacific. But of course, the main thing right now is still Hurricane Erin, churning away out here in the Atlantic, finally beginning to move off of the East Coast. Well, it never made landfall along the East Coast, but is finally beginning to move away from the East Coast, but obviously just becoming an even larger hurricane now, with its cloud cover extending even as far north as the outer Cape Hatteras and southeastern Massachusetts, and you even see some of it beginning to make its way onto the coast of Atlantic Canada. So Erin is a massive storm, and it'll continue to remain a massive storm, although it will begin to transition into a post-tropical system over the next few days. In fact, it's probably going to happen as we head into the weekend. National Hurricane Center forecast this will remain a hurricane up until Saturday, and then Saturday afternoon they have this transitioning into a post-tropical system as it then races on off into the northeast. But it's not leaving us without causing impacts. And again, this is something that I said would happen, and I've talked about this quite extensively over the last several days. Erin definitely did not make a landfall along the United States, but this is what is happening in North Carolina. Very, very strong waves coming inland, especially over the Outer Banks, and causing flooding. And this is happening as Erin did not even make landfall in the United States. And this just goes to prove, once again, a storm is more than just where it tracks. A storm is a large area, especially in the case of Hurricane Erin. It was a ginormous storm, brought impacts to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And by the way, I should say this is from Sam Walker on Twitter. So obviously want to give the credits. But obviously now Erin is going to move out and away from the coastline, and we're not going to have to worry about Erin anymore, although I will say that rip currents will still be a big issue over the next several days for the East Coast, and that'll probably remain the case as we are now tracking multiple other areas here in the deep tropics. We have Erin, which is moving off to the northeast, and then we have two other areas now, both areas of investigation, as we like to call them, invest areas in the MDR. And let's actually zoom in on the MDR right now. What are the areas we are tracking? This area here is 90L. This is in the northwestern MDR, and this is looking like it's going to potentially develop, but develop north of the islands and probably recurve out to sea away from the U.S. East Coast. But this might actually become a pretty decent storm as well. And obviously that is why I say that the rip current risk will probably remain an issue for those along the East Coast for the next few days, even as Erin moves out. And then we have Invest 99L here, which is in the central eastern MDR. And for a few days, this has been fooling a lot of people online looking as if this was about to become a tropical cyclone. And right now, this evening, it definitely has a pretty organized look. Has quite the abundance of consistent convective bursts. I mean, both systems do, but especially 99L here. And I said a few days ago that it definitely seems to have a quite aggressive low-level center. And I'll show you ASCAT here. Definitely a low-level center of some sort, but not quite organized yet, that we could call it a tropical cyclone. So still an invest area as of right now, but obviously we're going to monitor it and see if this might slip, and potentially snag a name, and add on to the Atlantic hurricane season. And I will say wind shear a little bit high over where Invest 99L is right now in the Eastern MDR, although wind shear is lower ahead of it, so maybe it might still have a chance briefly to be able to develop. And then 90L right now in also some higher shear, although that will become low and favorable over the next several days. And this will probably develop and become another name system, and probably maybe even potentially become our next hurricane. And I'll show you why with the GFS in just a moment. But another important factor into development, and again, this is all part of the seasons changing Saharan air as well. Just look at how much less Saharan air is, especially across the MDR. Still have a little bit here in the far eastern MDR, especially off the northwestern coast of Africa, but especially through the southern and western MDR, especially here where 90L is. There's virtually no more Saharan air left. So things are starting to become much more favorable now. And obviously, we are seeing the result of that, with two invest areas to watch in the MDR, obviously behind Hurricane Erin. And it's only August 21st. Things are only going to get more active from here on out. And I should also mention to you, sea surface temperature anomalies are very, very warm as well. And I mean, they're very warm throughout the MDR, but especially through the Caribbean and Gulf. But obviously, we do have cooler sea surface temperature anomalies just east of the Bahamas and north of the islands, obviously because of the waters churned up by Erin. Although, trust me, just watch in the next few days how this will warm up spectacularly and probably be just as warm as the surrounding areas are. And in fact, I'll actually save this image. Well, I think it's already saved on the archive online. So I'll just show you this image now, and then we'll come back to this in a few days, and I'll show you just how much things will warm up here in the Bahamas, because this area warms up quite dramatically even after we have strong storms. I mean, it's still the height of summer. We still have the sun beaming off very strong on the ocean, so this will warm up very dramatically. And the rest of the MDR is going to stay very warm, especially as we get into the central and western MDR. And I'm going to elaborate that as I show you the GFS model here. Just taking you out over the next few days. Obviously, we have Erin, which will speed on off into the northeastern Atlantic, eventually get absorbed in this huge non-tropical system here. I don't want to do that. This huge non-tropical system here just south of Greenland, and the amount of very strong and very high waves that is associated with Erin will carry itself all the way out into the northern Atlantic. And I showed you a tweet about that from Ben Knoll a few days ago, but eventually Erin does move out. And then we have Invest 90L here, which really takes off as we head into the weekend. And then as we head into early next week, there's the GFS, making it a decent hurricane, actually pretty decent. Strengthens it to a 969 millibar hurricane. That's probably a Category 2. But then it gets kicked off as well, off into the northeast, although maybe might impact Atlantic Canada if you believe the GFS over the next week. But at least the ridge will be strong enough that this will not be brought anywhere near the East Coast. But as I did mention before, there will be a huge rip current risk probably in effect still. Maybe won't be as high as Erin, because definitely by comparison, 90L will definitely not be as large of a storm. But we're still going to have a storm churning out there in the Atlantic and producing swells that will obviously reach the East Coast. So the rip current risk is not going away over the next few days. But then that eventually moves out. And then things go a little bit quiet as we head towards the end of the month. But I'm still a little skeptical of that because, as I mentioned to you, sea surface temperature anomalies are very, very warm. And then we have the area here of 99L, which is this invest here, and I'm going to show you on the vorticity, mainly to make the point that Invest 99L doesn't seem to do much here in the MDR. Kind of fizzles out, especially on the GFS, although you do see here, as it goes out into time, it does try to rejuvenate itself a little bit. But I should mention that the models really have not been that good on picking up on Invest 99L at all. It does have quite a bit of energy associated with it, and the models have not really picked up on it that well. And the Atlantic is very warm. So what I'm trying to say is, and I said this before, just because something does not develop immediately in the MDR does not mean that it can get going further west. And once again, just really quickly going to bring you back here to the sea surface temperature anomaly map. Just look at how warm it is throughout the entire Atlantic, especially the further west you go. And we saw how that played out with Erin. So bottom line, all I'm saying is we're going to have to watch the tropics very closely over the next few weeks. It's only August 21st. We are literally just in the first few days now of the peak ramp up to the heart of the hurricane season. The official peak day of the hurricane season is September 10th. So believe it or not, it's felt like we've had a lot of activity over the last week or so, but it's only just getting started. And trust me, it's going to get more crazy from here on out. With that being said, though, I'm going to end it off for tonight's video. Sorry I posted a little bit late tonight, but I will have a video tomorrow afternoon, as I typically post them in the late morning, early afternoon. So I will do that tomorrow. So if you're interested and you want to stay tuned, please make sure to like this video, comment as well your thoughts below, any questions you have or any concerns. And of course, as I always say, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them. And be sure to have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. And of course, I'll be back with more tomorrow. See you then.